जिंदा खुदा से दिल जो लगाते तो खूब था।
जिंदा खुदा से दिल जो लगाते तो खूब था।
मुर्दा बुतों से जान, मुर्दा बुतों से जान छुड़ाते तो खूब था।
Okay, can I request Zishan Nasir for tilawat, please?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل أعوذ برب الناس ملك الناس إله الناس من شر الوسواس الخناس الذي يوسوس في صدور الناس من الجنة والناس. جزاك الله.
No translation. Anyway, never mind. Right. Okay. So again, we're going to continue with the series about the prophets from the holy books. And this time we're going to talk about the prophet Yusuf, alayhi salam. Right. So the prophet Yusuf is known in English as Joseph. And he was the son of the prophet Yaqub, who known in English as Jacob. So we talked about Jacob last week. Likewise, he's also the grandson of the prophet Isaac. And Isaac, of course, was the son of Ibrahim. So therefore, he was the great-grandson of the prophet Ibrahim. So it means in this family, there is 4 prophets, which are direct descendants of each other. So from Prophet Ibrahim to Isaac to Jacob, and now to the Prophet Joseph. Now, both the Holy Books relate the story of Hazrat Yusuf, that he was the 11th son of the Prophet Jacob. I don't think that's actually mentioned in the Quran, but anyway, certainly he was the son as being mentioned. He was taken into slavery by his jealous brothers. Again, that's more to do with the Bible. He was wrongfully imprisoned, both mentioned that, and naturally he received true dreams and interpretations, and both mentions that. He rose, became a vizier, the second most powerful man in Egypt, next to the Pharaoh. We say second most powerful, depends on how you look at it, but basically he was like the finance in charge of the treasury and things like this. And so he would have been on the Pharaoh's right-hand man in many issues. His presence and office caused the prophet Jacob and his family to finally go and settle in Canaan and settle it, therefore, in Egypt. And we feel that this happened around the 7th century BC to the 5th century BC, so around that time. Now, in my last talk, we mentioned some of the differences of accounts between the Holy Bible and the Holy Quran when I was talking about Hazrat Yaqub. So I brought in about Yusuf during that time. So I don't think there's a need to repeat these things. But we see that there is a whole surah of the Prophet Yusuf, which is chapter 12 in the Holy Quran. Now, this is unusual. Most chapters, they obviously talk about different prophets. But this particular chapter, chapter 12, is only about the Prophet Yusuf. There's no other prophet that's mentioned. And the reason for this is that the Prophet Yusuf's life bears a very close resemblance to that of the Holy Prophet Muhammad. So therefore, today I thought I will talk about those similarities between the Prophet Yusuf and the Holy Prophet Muhammad. So the first thing is that Yusuf had a dream about his future greatness. So it's related in the Holy Bible and in the Holy Quran. In the Holy Quran, "O my father, I saw in a dream 11 stars and a sun and a moon, and I saw them making sajda, obedience to me." Now, generally, it's felt that the 11 stars is talking about his brothers, and the sun and moon being his father, the prophet, and the mother. and that they would all be prostrating to him. They will all be serving him as such. So this shows the future greatness that Joseph had. We feel he had this at a young age. Likewise, with the Holy Prophet Muhammad, his first revelation was in the cave Hira when the angel Jibril came, and that predicted that he would become the most honorable man of the human race. As the Holy Quran states, that proclaim thou in the name of thy Lord who created man from a clot of blood, proclaim, and thy Lord is most bounteous, who taught by the pen. So this was the first revelation, and then he started to understand that he would be a prophet of Allah, and of course becomes the greatest prophet of Allah. Now Joseph alayhi salam related his dream to his father, the prophet Jacob. Now we talked about this last time, so I don't want to go into the Bible too much, but as I said last time, according to the Bible, Jacob got upset about it and didn't really believe in it, but according to the Holy Quran, Jacob did believe in it, and that's what we believe is the truth. Likewise, the Holy Prophet Muhammad, at the insistence of his wife, Hazrat Khadija, took the Holy Prophet to Waqara bin Nawaf, and he explained about this incident that happened in the cave Hira, and how he got this message from who he didn't know, but obviously Waqara did know. And Waqara was one of the elders of his family. So as Joseph took it to his elder, so the Holy Prophet took it to his elder. The Prophet Jacob warns his son not to tell his brothers, as they would plot against him. Again, this is what the Holy Quran says, a bit different to what the Bible says. Waqara bin Nawfal also told the Holy Prophet Muhammad that his people would plot against him and turn him out of the town. This surprised him greatly, of course. He thought he was loved by his people, and why should they turn against him? But this was the warning that he gave. Again, the Prophet Jacob believed in the truth of Joseph's dream. As we said, it differs slightly to the Bible, but the Holy Quran, we believe, is a truer narration. And likewise, Waraka bin Nawfal believed in the revelation of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, that it was from God, and he likened it to the revelation of Hazrat Moses. So as the angel Jibril came to the Holy Prophet Moses, so Waraka told the Holy Prophet, it's the same angel that went to Moses has come to you. Again, another similarity, that like Joseph's brothers who were angry that instead of themselves, who they imagined were superior to him in every respect, that he had won the affection of the father and become the center of his attention. So the Quraysh leaders said that the Quran ought to have been revealed to one of the great men of either Mecca or Taif. And so they looked upon the Holy Prophet as too small a person to be selected for the exalted office of a prophet, and so rejected him. Again, another similarity, just as the brothers of Joseph plotted to kill him, so the Quraysh leaders also conspired to put the Holy Prophet Muhammad to death. And again, just as one of the brothers of Joseph opposed the proposal to kill him, instead suggested that we should dispose of him in some other manner, and then coming to the idea of just dropping him off in a well. So again, we see that when the Quraysh leaders boycotted the Muslims for 3 years, starving the Holy Prophet and his followers, some people opposed that and sneaked food and drink into them, until, of course, after 3 years, it was finally broken. So Joseph was cast into a deep well by his brothers. Likewise, the Holy Prophet Muhammad, he had to take shelter in the cave Thor, which is like a well, from the persecution of these brethren, the Quraysh. So when he was traveling from Mecca to Medina, he stayed at cave Thor, and as I said, that's similar to sort of thing as being cast into a deep well. Another similarity was that Joseph was informed through revelation that there will come a time when God will bestow upon him power and glory, and he would then inform his brothers of the bad treatment that they had melted out to him. Likewise, the Holy Prophet Muhammad was also informed by revelation that his enemies would compel him to flee from Mecca, yet he would return home victorious. Again, this was something obviously the Holy Prophet didn't want to do, but eventually he had to, and then of course he came back and had the Fatah of Islam, the victory of Islam. Again, another similarity is that the brothers of Joseph falsely announced that Joseph had been killed by a wolf, told his father, showing the shirt with blood on. And again, the Quraysh falsely announced that the Holy Prophet Muhammad had been killed in the Battle of Uhud, the second battle between the Muslims and Quraysh, and they were boldly announcing that we've killed the Holy Prophet Muhammad. Another similarity is that an attempt was made to tempt Joseph away from the path of piety and morality when the wife who took him in tried to seduce Joseph, but he resisted and put his full trust in Allah. And again, the attempt was made to tempt the Holy Prophet Muhammad to give up preaching the unity of God by offering him to be the king or amass great wealth or to marry a beautiful girl. The Holy Prophet responded to this by saying that if you place the sun on my right hand, the moon on my left hand, I will not give up the preaching of the oneness of God. Again, another similarity is that at the time of Joseph, Egypt was visited with a severe 7-year famine. This is depicting a dream where he interpreted the king's dream of having to store up the wheat and food for 7 years to counteract this famine. So likewise, in the time of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, Arabia had a 7-year famine. The people finally even requested the Holy Prophet to pray for it to come to an end, which eventually, of course, it did. Another similarity, as Joseph's brothers sought to remove Joseph from their presence, hoping that this would cause his dishonor, but instead, of course, he achieved greatness. So likewise, the Quraysh sought to remove the Holy Prophet Muhammad from Mecca, hoping that this would cause his dishonor. But again, the same thing happened, and instead he achieved greatness. Another similarity, that Joseph rose to such a high position that his brothers failed to recognize him because they could not imagine that he whom they had cast into well and sold as a slave could ever rise to such a position. So we see in both the Bible and the Quran how the brothers went and didn't recognize Joseph when he was handing out the food to them. So likewise, the Quraysh marveled at the power and prestige of the Holy Prophet Muhammad. Again, it's related by Abu Sufyan when the Hercules, the Christian emperor, received a letter from the Holy Prophet, called Abu Sufyan to ask him who this person is and quizzed him. So Abu Sufyan said that the affair of the son of Abu Khabsha has indeed become great. And here he's referring to the Holy Prophet Muhammad, that here even a king is asking about it, and there's nothing bad he could say about the Holy Prophet Muhammad. Another similarity is that Joseph had a great love for his brothers. Despite the cruel treatment that they did to him, he was kind to them and desired their return. He returned their money to them and offered them more food if they returned as a family. So again, it relates how he wanted his younger brother, Benjamin, to come with them, and he returned the money that they had paid for the food and said, if you bring him, I'll give another portion for him as well. And eventually he was reunited with his brother. Likewise, the Holy Prophet Muhammad had a great love for his people and was anxious for them to see the truth and accept it. As the Holy Quran states, haply thou wilt kill thyself by overexertion in thy work because they believe not. So the Holy Prophet Muhammad, despite all the persecution that he was facing, his followers were facing, he was constantly praying for the Meccans that Allah opens up their heart to the truth. Again, another similarity, that when Joseph was in a position to judge his brothers, he did not keep his brothers in suspense and at once removed all their fears and apprehensions concerning the treatment that he was saying to them by telling them that no blame shall lie on you this day. May Allah forgive you. So despite all that they did, he forgave them all. And of course, the Holy Prophet Muhammad, when he, at the Fatah of Mecca, he was now in a position to judge the Meccans after so many years of persecution, being kicked out of Mecca, the wars that took place. He now was in a position where he was the head of 10,000 companions, and he could do anything he wanted to the Meccans. He asked them what treatment should he give them, and they related to this the treatment that Joseph gave to his brothers. So as Joseph forgave his brothers, so the Holy Prophet Muhammad forgave all of the Meccans. So these are the resemblances with the Holy Prophet Muhammad. But there is also another resemblance with the Prophet Yusuf. Because we know that the Prophet Yusuf was a great grandson of the Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. I told you about it earlier. We know that he was imprisoned unjustly, and he bore it all for the sake of Allah, even to the extent where he could have left, but he wanted the king to understand that he was innocent, and still refused to leave until the king investigated. And of course, Allah rewarded his steadfastness by granting him this great honor and position where he became the treasurer for the king himself and advised the king on what to do for the next 7 years and then 1 year, which would be good. So, of course, Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmad, may Allah always be his helper, was also the great-grandson of Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad. He was also imprisoned unjustly, and he bore it for the sake of Allah. And likewise, of course, he was rewarded by his steadfastness by granting him great honor and position by becoming the Khalifa. So again, there's a similarity with him and the Prophet Yusuf. Now, finally, as I said before, each prophet, there is some sort of message that we are learning from the prophets. And so the message we get from the life of the Prophet Yusuf, that this entire surah has been devoted to a somewhat detailed account of the Prophet Yusuf's life in order that it might serve as a forewarning of the incidences that were to occur during the life of the Holy Prophet Muhammad. So it is guiding the Quraysh that look at the story of Joseph, you're doing exactly the same things. And they learned that by, in the end, quoting the same story of Yusuf, to ask for forgiveness from the Holy Prophet Muhammad. Okay, so it's a bit smaller this time because, like I say, I wanted to highlight the similarities rather than going into the differences, which we covered last time. But now, any questions, any comments, anything anybody would like to ask about this particular topic? So the ball's now in your court, same as usual. You can ask, you can raise your hand, or you can send a chat. So is there anybody that wants anything they want to say to?
There's nothing on the chat, and no questions have been sent through. But as Rabbi Sawad said, if anyone would like to, unmute yourself and you have a question you'd like to ask, please feel free to ask. Jazakallah.
I mean, like I say, in this particular one, this similarity is there. Of course, if you've been reading the commentaries, then you may have come across it, but maybe some of you haven't come across this. And I thought it'd be quite interesting to look at the similarities and how close they were to each other. So has anybody got anything they would like to ask or comment on or anything? Very quiet today. Okay, I've been quite impressed, alhamdulillah, with the Midlands Tabligh efforts, mashallah. I've seen many of you have been going out doing Tabligh stalls and stuff like that, so that's very good. And it's important that we do get the message out. Harris, you've got your hand up?
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi.
Welcome, assalam.
I just had a quick question about Hazrat Yusuf alayhi salam. Is it true that he was one of the most handsome and most beautiful prophet? Is it mentioned anywhere in a hadith or in the Quran about his beauty anywhere?
Yes, I think in hadith, the Holy Prophet himself has mentioned this. how beautiful it was, who knows? I mean, obviously in the Quran, it relates how he bought the wife who looked after him, brought him in front of the other ladies, and they all were given knives. And when they saw his beauty, apparently they cut their hands. And again, this is something which we mentioned last week about the age of Yusuf. According to the Bible, he was 17 when he was put in the well, which seems very unlikely. We believe, according to the Quran, he was a small boy. And of course, he grew up, and yes, he seems to be handsome. It's a bit, like I say, it's been mentioned in the Quran and in Hadith, but it's not really relevant. The main thing is piety. This is what Allah judges us by, and that's the best beauty, that if someone's got taqwa. But yes, apparently he did look very handsome. Any other? Okay. Anything else? Anybody's got anything they'd like to ask? Oh, okay. Well, we'll continue with the prophets. And as I said before, if anybody's got any particular topic they want to discuss, then please let us know, either Zaid or Toby, or Manavasar or whoever. But otherwise, we'll continue showing the differences between the different prophets and relating to them to learn from yourselves, that you can learn about the prophets, the importance, and of course, as I said before, the Holy Quran showing these differences and showing what the true account is. And in these particular prophets, as we've been showing, there is slight subtle differences, although the story is generally the same. But it's important differences because the Bible especially will try to depict that the prophets are sinners and doing bad things. So the Holy Quran will remove that. But as I said, with today's talk, it was mainly to show the similarity between the prophets and the Holy Prophet Muhammad. And I hope that's been achieved. If there's no questions, we'll finish it there. Last chance. Okay, finishing quite early today. Right, okay, then let's have silent prayer. Please join me in silent prayer. Bismillah. Okay, assalamu alaikum.